Sorry. You may have heard something there, but it's being recorded. We record these in case there are people that are unable to join. We post them on NDOT's website, and so you can direct your neighbors there and they can get the same information that you did. There we go.
Miriam, do you have your hand up?
She might have been saying, hey.
Okay.
Feel free to put it back up if you have a question, Miriam. I just took it down. Okay, well, let's get started then. I'm Amy Birch. I'm a traffic engineer and consultant that works with NDOT to help facilitate the traffic calming program. And so we're here tonight to talk about the traffic calming project that's been selected for Fairfax Avenue. So we're going to go over a little bit of background information about the program, our toolbox of that we use to implement traffic calming on residential streets. And then also we have a plan, a concept plan we've put together just to get some feedback from you all, and then we'll go over next steps. So with that, I'll get started. Let's talk about what traffic calming is. This program with NDOT we call it the Neighborhood Street Traffic Calming Program. So we focus on residential streets like Fairfax, not streets like West End Avenue. And these are physical solutions that we use to implement on the roadway to encourage lower vehicle speeds and driver speeds. And so we're really targeting speed reduction through this program. We always talk about the 3 E's of traffic calming being education, enforcement, and engineering. Education being, part of what we do through these meetings, educating on why we do traffic calming, the benefits of traffic calming, how these measures and devices that are installed on the roadway are meant to operate. Enforcement, that's obviously the job that the police department does. They can't be on all the streets all the time. We have a great need for and requests for traffic calming. So then that's how NDOT comes in with the engineering piece of this. How can we modify and enhance the street to achieve slower speeds? So this infograph is showing the correlation between speed and a pedestrian's chance of survival. So at 25 miles per hour, a pedestrian that's hit by a vehicle has an 89% chance of survival. And then as speed goes up to 35 miles per hour, the chance goes down to 68% chance of survival. And then at 45 miles per hour, that chance of survival goes down to 35%. And this is national data that we're referencing here. So obviously crashes are more severe, more intense at higher speeds. So pedestrian chance of survival goes down as speed goes up. But another thing about slower speeds is that the crash itself can be more easily avoided at slower speeds because as a driver, you have more time to react, more time to slow down and avoid a collision. So multiple reasons why NDOT is encouraging slower speeds on not just residential streets, but all streets. This program, the traffic calming program, is in high demand, and it's an application-based program. We offer 2 windows for applications during the year, in the early part of the year, and then beginning of fall. And so as of March 2024, we had over 480 neighborhood streets that had requested traffic calming on these residential streets. So our most recent selection was fall 2024, where 25 neighborhood streets were selected. And And so this map here is taken directly from our online tracker on NDOT's website, where we track the status of all traffic calming projects. So it's color coded. You can zoom in and look at the status of a street to see if a traffic application has been applied for on a particular street, or what the status of it is through this program. So we're just trying to show that areas where traffic calming has been requested there. So outside of the neighborhood street traffic calming program, you may have other needs and services for NDOT or other metro departments. And so I just want to direct you to the Hub Nashville. It's hub.Nashville.gov. And or you can dial 311 or download an app on your phone. But this is a great way to reach different metro departments and get your service request addressed. And that may be street lights out on your street, or your trash didn't get picked up, or the storm drain is clogged and needs to be cleaned out because it's flooding. All types of maintenance issues, and you're able to submit that request. You get a request number, something you can follow up on, and it's just a really great way to reach the right department to get your question or need answered. So now let's talk again about traffic calming. You know, I told you that we had nearly 500 streets that had requested traffic calming. So how did we select 25 streets to receive traffic calming in the latest round? We do this with a data-driven prioritization methodology, and we compare the scores of all the streets that requested traffic calming and then select those that score at the highest. And it's the number of streets per selection is typically based on budget available for this program. And so we look at 5 primary criteria: the vehicular speed, volume, and so that's data that we go out and measure on the street for every application that's applied. And so for the speed and that scoring, we're comparing the 85th percentile speed measured on the street to our desired speed of 25 miles per hour. The 85th percentile speed is the speed that 85% of the traffic is going that speed or below. It means that 15% of the traffic is going above that number. So we're looking at that comparison, and that's worth 45% of the score, or 45 points. Then volume, we're counting the daily traffic on the street, and that's in both directions. That's worth 25% of the score. Then we're also looking at trip destinations. Are there places where we would expect people on the street or near the street to be walking to and from, like schools, libraries, community centers? And that's worth 5% of the score. And then non-driver accommodations, we're looking at whether there are sidewalks on the street, and we count both sides of the street, whether there's bikeways on the street or bus routes nearby. So facilities or services where we would expect people to be walking either on the street or biking on the street or something. So that's worth 10% of the score. And then the vulnerable user and injury fatalities, we look back at whether there have been any pedestrian or bicycle crashes on the street over the last 10 years. So that's kind of the data behind how Fairfax was selected for a traffic calming project. And here's some of the data that we were looking at on Fairfax. And what was captured. The 85th percentile speed we measured at 33 miles per hour. I know it's posted at 20 miles per hour from the previous walkable neighborhoods, walking district pilot that was done in this neighborhood. The volume, and this is both directions of traffic, was measured at just under 1,500 vehicles per day. And then, you know, we have a sort of a wide street, but we have on-street parking on the street with bike lanes. It's already got a chicane on it. and sidewalks. And so I should have mentioned this earlier, but we're talking about this section of Fairfax between Natchez Trace and Marlboro Avenue. The other side of Fairfax, the other side of Natchez Trace and Fairfax was a previous project through this program. And as we go along, if you have any questions, you can feel free to put those in the chat and we'll answer those and get to those, or you can certainly unmute and ask those questions, and we can handle that there. So here's our map that comes from our tracker map that I spoke about a little bit earlier. So just a snapshot of this section of Fairfax that we're here to talk about. I've highlighted in green based on our legend. That means this project is in the meeting and design phase, but we also track other statuses of projects. And so nearby, we're showing, that the recent project on the other side of Fairfax has been completed and installed with vertical measures. There's project on 24th Avenue and Blair Boulevard. Those two streets are in the construction queue. They've already gone through the process and just waiting for installation, I believe. And we have a few streets nearby that have requested traffic calming. Those are shown in the pink thin line. And those are, they have requested traffic calming, so we have an application on file, but have not been selected for a project based on our prioritization methodology. So let's talk about our toolkit. I'm going to linger too long here on speed cushions because I suspect that you all, if you live on Fairfax, you've experienced the speed cushions that have been installed recently on the other side of Natchez Trace, but these are rubberized modular devices that we can form in a multitude of different configurations depending on the street, but they're vertical devices that you drive over, and it causes drivers to slow down as they drive along the street. And so when we put these on a street, we typically put them in a series so that we're achieving a more consistent speed along the length of the street. If we just put one set and no other, depending on the length of the street or other traffic control like stop signs and things, we would just expect drivers to speed on either side and not maintain a consistent speed along the street. So when we install these, we're taking into consideration driveway locations and street intersections, because we can't put them at the back of a driveway. We don't want you having to drive over them sideways in order to get in and out of your driveway or anything like that. We don't place them too close or within intersections. And depending on the other features of the street, we may incorporate the white flexible delineator posts like you see in the bottom right picture. And that this is showing protecting the bike lane. So we're not putting the device all the way in the vertical speed cushion all the way into the bike lane, but instead using these vertical posts to keep drivers from going around the speed cushions and into the bike lane. And then there's obviously different striping patterns that we can apply to these depending on what the striping on the street is. And they come in various lengths. This picture on the bottom left kind of shows this modular way they're laid out. So there's 3 sections. So this one is 10.5 feet wide, and then it's tallest in that flat section in the middle. It's 3 inches high. We use warning signs as well to make sure that the devices are seen and drivers know as they approach to slow down. Speed tables are made of the same material, and they are similar, except they don't have the gaps. Sorry, I failed to mention that. Let me go back one. So the benefit of the cushions are the gaps that more easily allow emergency vehicle response. So the ambulances and fire trucks, they have a slightly wider wheelbase than your typical passenger vehicle or pickup truck. And so they are able to straddle these cushions, and so they're not as affected by the vertical device. And so the difference with the speed tables is they're solid all the way across the road. But otherwise, we have some of the same features with how we space them and locate them. So NDOT has done some before and after studies of locations and streets where these types of vertical measures have been applied. And so I want to show you that the comparison of the before and after speed data shows that the average speed on these 6 streets that we studied, the average speed before the installation was 31 miles per hour, and then after it went down to 22 miles per hour. And then the 85th percentile speed comparison was 37 miles per hour before and went down to 25 miles per hour. So we find that these are really effective, and they tend to be pretty popular as far as neighborhoods asking for them and liking them after they're installed. That's certainly not, I'm not trying to say everyone loves them. Now, radar feedback signs is another tool in our toolbox, and these are typically paired with a speed limit sign. Like you see in these pictures, they're solar powered, and what they do is they show a driver their speed as they're approaching the sign, as a good reminder to drivers of what their speed is and that they may be speeding and they should slow down. They tend to be effective as well. Our before and after studies have shown a 7 mile per hour reduction in speeds for the 85th percentile speeds throughout Metro. These are
And what was it? And what was it for the speed cushions?
the data set's a little different, so it looks like, I guess that's 12 miles per hour down.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
I feel like I remember that somebody, either you or Jeff Hammond, like saying something like that the speed cushions have like an 80% effectiveness and the radar signs have like about a 60% effectiveness. Does that sound about right?
I'm not certain on that, but one of the things with the cushions are they physically get drivers to slow down.
Gotcha.
The sign is more of like a reminder, and those conscientious drivers that didn't realize they're speeding, they do tend to slow down, and there may be some with the radar feedback signs, it's possible that they don't have lasting effects when people kind of get used to them as signs. So I don't really have any a specific data point on that. It's just kind of general feeling about how these kind of work. But they are the data that NDOT has collected on the before and after has shown that they are achieving some slower speeds. And we find that good. So we use the radar feedback signs a lot of times on streets maybe where the vertical measures are not appropriate. For whatever reason, we can't install them because there's curves or hills. We can't put them on steep grade or in a curve, or on streets that NDOT does use these on streets that are not eligible for the traffic calming program. So you may see them on some of your higher classification streets that may have volume that's too high, but we still want to target that speeding.
Thanks.
Or we'll use them sometimes on streets that the neighborhood doesn't support the vertical measures or other treatments, and that's what they're asking for. So we're here to get some feedback on our concept, which I'm going to show in just a little bit. But sometimes that's the plan that gets installed if cushions are not desired. So we also incorporate neighborhood narrowing and pavement markings. you know, if there's a wide street that has excess pavement, just to visually narrow the street. Bulb outs are another tool for intersections that we've incorporated in this program, and it's done with paint and flexible delineator posts, those white posts you see in the top picture. And the idea is just to reduce the size of an intersection when we have a really big, wide intersection. It narrows the crossing distance for pedestrians and also can improve visibility at intersections when illegal parking is too close to an intersection, blocking visibility. So that's a tool that's done with paint primarily. And then chicanes, you guys are certainly familiar with this, and Fairfax is usually our example street for what chicanes are. So alternating the on-street parking to achieve some curvature in a straight street. And then traffic circles is another intersection treatment where we create an island in the middle of an intersection that drivers sort of drive around like a roundabout, in that they drive counterclockwise around. So if you want to make a left turn, you go around the circle to make a left. And typically the side streets are still stop controlled. So, and then the major street at the intersection is affected because the island causes them to horizontally divert around the island and slow down as they navigate through the intersection. So these are, right now we're doing these with rubber curbs that have some markings on them with reflectivity and asphalt filled, like you see in this picture. So that is our toolbox. I can pause here and see if there are any questions about that. And then next up, we're going to talk about the recommended plan. Okay. Seeing no questions, I'll move on to the main event. So what we looked at for this street, knowing what plan has been installed on Fairfax on the east side of Natchez Trace, we're recommending the speed cushions, and we're showing with these symbols. This is just a high-level plan to get feedback from you all who live on the street, whether this is something you're interested in. And so this would be 3 sets of cushions spaced between Natchez Trace and Marlboro Avenue. In locating these, we're looking at driveway locations to avoid driveways, spacing them away from driveways. Also, the transitions for the chicanes come into play on where we can place these, because we wouldn't want to place them in those transitions. So these would be very similar to the treatment that's on the other side of this of Natchez Trace. So I don't want to linger too long here. I think we should get some feedback from you all. If you have any questions, we can talk about that. Because of the bike lane, I think we would be incorporating some treatment to keep drivers from going around them or going into the parking lane to go around them. On the other side of the street, we still put a cushion in the parking lane. You can park on them. You can park, near them and so forth. So
I've got a quick question. I think I know the answer, but I want to be sure. The stop signs that you have on there, those are existing stop signs. You're not like,
that's right.
Like the stops on 32nd as you approach or as you get to Fairfax are on 32nd. And
right. That's right.
Okay.
We're just showing where the approaches to Fairfax stop.
Okay.
And that there is an always stop at Marlboro Avenue and a traffic signal at Natchez Trace. So
Gotcha.
Factor that in,
Right.
Where the always stop is at Marlboro on the spacing from to the first cushion in that direction. And so we're not proposing to change anything as far as stop signs goes. So I see a question here from John Sherman at 526 Fairfax, corner of Fairfax and Natchez. All in on reducing speeds on our street. The soft on-street chicanes have failed. Yeah, and I think, yeah.
Amy, this is John Sherman. I'll pipe in for a moment. I'm just a couple of things. I think any of us who live out here know those chicanes haven't worked, and we appreciated when you put them in many years ago. But it was a great try. I'm just wondering two things. Was there any consideration of a roundabout at 32nd in Fairfax? Knowing how folks come flying down that hill, and maybe that speed hump there between the first one, just I guess it's east of that may help. I'm also wondering, being down the corner, when people are moving, from Marlboro to Natchez Trace, that's a hill there, and folks get a lot of speed up. Even if you have that speed hump where it is, they see the light green, they tear down the street. And knowing that there isn't a speed hump on the other side for a while further down, is there any considerations for getting them to slow down that hill in some other way?
Going towards Natchez Trace?
Yeah. Basically, where the speed hump is, the closest one on Fairfax, going west up the hill from Natchez Trace. That I don't know if that your engineers, how the traffic behaves. Maybe that's enough. I fear it may not be. So
yeah, we do. We try not to get them too close to a signalized intersection, but we can look at that to see if we should move it a little closer. If that might help, but yeah.
Put it right in front of my driveway if you want. I don't care.
All right. Well, we got you. We got you. Okay. But yeah, we do think, this is going to help. It's not going to solve the whole issue if you do have those outlier speeders, that are trying to make the light. I'm not sure about that, but we do think these are effective. And, after having driven over 2 to 3, you're already at that slower speed as you go over them. So, but I understand what you're saying about the proximity to the signal and the grade.
And the roundabout is just too much. Is that kind of like, that's
okay? Yeah. Thanks for bringing that back up. No, not necessarily too much. We were kind of just sticking with the same plan as the other side of the street to get some consistency there. But the other thing about the roundabout, we call them traffic circles for this program, is the size of the intersection may not be large enough because what happens is we are kind of taking up the center of the intersection with an island, and so vehicles are veering around the island, and with the bike lanes and everything and the tighter kind of radius on the intersection, we probably don't have enough room for that to maintain the bike lane and keep drivers through there. But we can look at that if that's something that's
I mean, maybe no one else besides me wants it, and I know the neighbors probably would be upset about it. So I get it. I was just wondering if you'd explored it. But thank you.
Are those traffic circles? Are they usually done in conjunction with an all-way stop or instead of an all-way stop?
Typically instead of. So right, I think we were talking about 32nd in that instance. Right, they're typically instead of an always stop because the hope is an always stop.
Wait, you mean Marlboro?
Yeah, sorry, I'm not at Marlboro. We're not talking about one at Marlboro.
Oh, okay. John Sherman is talking about 32nd.
32nd.
Oh, okay, I'm sorry.
So, and yeah, we typically don't install them at always stops because the stop sign, hopefully people are obeying it and are stopping. So that's not necessary there.
This is Jonathan Greenwood. Hello, everybody. I live at 412 Fairfax, so right where the C is on the speed cushion in the middle of Fairfax there.
Mm-hmm.
I think you're right that I don't think it's feasible personally to put a roundabout in at that stop sign on 32nd. You'd end up chopping off people's yards to be able to get it in and have enough room to go around. And generally speaking, I would say that over the years, there's been I've seen a couple of accidents in 20 years on there. I think most people sort of are, that's where they begin to pick up speed as they go down the bottom of Fairfax. I think it's interesting, switching topics, I think it's interesting to have the two speed cushions either side of the hill. My observation of driving up down that road a lot is because it's a blind hill, when people come to the apex, they're suddenly surprised by vehicles that are oncoming, and that's exacerbated by the chicane. Not that I think the chicane is a bad idea, but I think it's a good idea to try to calm that bit down. I was wondering. Oh, sorry. Go ahead.
We could maybe move one or add one, and
Yeah, that was going to be my question. Why not have two?
We could have two between Marlboro and 32nd. Is that maybe what you were getting
That's
at?
what I was thinking. Yeah, maybe move one further up so that the four-way stop on 32nd is sort of bookended a little bit by some cushions, and then people are often sprinting down to the stop at Marlborough because they're trying to get home and and
That's
whatnot.
good feedback.
I did have an observation also about the speed cushions as I was running past Eakin this evening. People fly over those cushions. I mean, I don't know about the engineering of the maximum speed before it starts to be a problem for your vehicle going over the cushion. And they definitely help, but people still go over those pretty quickly. It's my observation.
Yeah. You may be right. But we do think they do slow some people down. Or most people really. But
I think you're right.
there are drivers. There's certainly drivers that disobey all sorts of things.
Has anybody ever been in an Uber when they approached one? Like, I noticed that I've been on several Uber rides where like they stop to go like 2 miles an hour on those things consistently.
I've witnessed that as well. I don't know if necessarily on an Uber, but yes, been behind a vehicle where they're slowing down. So you have varying degrees of how people behave.
I did have one other question related to the speed cushions and why they don't go over the full width of the road, where you have, because I see a lot of times people are trying to get just one set of wheels on the speed cushion and then they're into the bike lane or they're into the opposing lane, and people are kind of playing dodge them when they're passing each other on the cushions.
Yeah. This has been in NDOT's preferred vertical measure tool because of the benefits for emergency vehicle response. We have used speed tables on occasion on some streets, but this has been the way NDOT prefers to use them for that reason. So, but right, we do have things we have to look at as far as, how it affects a bike lane and, where the signage is placed and all of that to try to keep drivers from doing the one wheel on, one wheel off. I don't know why people do that. It is way more uncomfortable to drive on it, like half cocked or whatever. Right. It is much more comfortable to drive straight over them, than on. So maybe they'll learn after they do it a few times, but yeah. I think we have a raised hand from Michael.
Yes. Hey, it's Michael Zanoli here. Hi, everybody. And I have a couple of questions. How many residents need to request speed modification to have this occur?
Yeah, that's
the majority. Is it one? Is it?
That's a great question. I'm going to get to that in our next slide. So maybe we'll move on and we can always come back to this.
Just Michael. If Michael asks for it, we all get it.
Yeah, I've been now we've been subject to the other side of Fairfax and the other, and there's an inconvenience and alters traffic patterns. And I agree with John that the speed chicanes really haven't slowed people down too much at all. It's better than it was before, so I did a slight modification. But also, we live here, and it's it's just it's not so pleasant to have to go over too many of the the cushions. So how did you come to the fact that you need 3 or you need 2 or you need 4?
That's a great question. We typically look at the spacing and the length of the street and what the traffic control, like where the stop signs and traffic signals are, and then kind of measure that out. So we typically target 400 to 600 foot spacing between cushion sets, and that's kind of to get that, achieve that consistent speed along the section of street. So that's kind of how that measures out. So we have some flexibility there, you know, if we have a reason to get them a little closer because of driveway spacing or something like that, you know, we can certainly do that, but that's where our target is around 400 to 600 foot spacing.
You know, if people know that there's speed cushions, then they try to avoid the street, and that's going to happen on Blair a lot too. But so it alters traffic patterns. So if you alter the traffic pattern, there's less volume, which is one of your major criteria. You know, it's the second highest of your criteria. And have you ever gone to a street and you put 2 in and then you see what happens, and maybe you put a 3rd in, or modify according to data?
Yeah, good question. That's not really our typical process. I'll say that we used to space them a little further apart and found that residents thought they were too far apart and they needed more. You know, we heard that feedback at times. So we may have gone in and adjusted the spacing or something, but our goal is not to continue to address it because we have such great, you know, requests for traffic calming throughout the city. You know, we're hoping to, you know, address the issue, calm the street, and move on to the next one. To your point about, you know, traffic pattern changes, you know, we do hear that. It is kind of hard to nail down what that, you know, diversion of traffic might be. It really depends on the street and the network surrounding. Is there a parallel route or not? Or were they cutting through on residential streets and now they're back on the major street? You know, maybe they've moved back over to Blakemore or something. So, you know, it's challenging to project or forecast what that might be, but we do acknowledge that there may be some shifting of traffic, but that's not the goal. You know, we really just want to slow drivers down through residential neighborhoods. And so, you know, if it's a case where it's an issue and adjacent streets are experiencing greater volumes, they can always apply for the program if they haven't already. We can collect that data. We can also collect some before and after data on streets where it's been applied, but we're not looking to just collect a bunch of data. We're trying to address the issue with these tools.
Well, my last comment briefly is, if you do, if and when you do these, put them in, I would really want to request that you put the posts there to help the bicycle lanes, and because people will try to go around the parking spaces very much, and it will alter our drive right there, that from Marlboro to Natchez Trace. This is going to alter the environment very much, I think. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Hey, this is Tom Cash. I'll add, I am 1 block, I guess if we're looking at it, north on Ackland, and we get a lot of traffic coming from you know, West End. It comes around like Orleans and then Ackland and the Love Circle area. And I don't know how much of that traffic coming that way, like you all, Fairfax probably gets more of the traffic coming from the other direction. I think we get a lot of it coming from the West End area. We on Akron, we kind of have natural. It's changed over the last 5 years. We've kind of got natural traffic calming in that we have a lot. Like it's just not as wide, and there are lots of parked cars, and so we've got like frequently like I'm having to pull over to let another car through because there are cars parked on both sides.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't know, you know, it'll be interesting to see how it changes. I don't see anything being diverted south to the, you know, hillside overlook area. So I think on Akron is where it'll hit more, at least from the, like I said, from the traffic coming from the west. And I've kind of not, I've not personally requested or asked the neighborhood association to request speed cushions on Akron because we kind of do have that natural traffic calming. Just some anecdotal
Mm-hmm.
stuff there.
Thank you. All right, let's move on. We can always come back to this if we need to, but I just want to be respectful of your time. So like I said, this is a application-based program, so residents apply for it. This street was selected, so now we're in our meeting phase where we're presenting this concept and get some feedback. And from here, we can go back and do the more detailed design where we have a more zoomed in aerial where we locate exactly where the cushions go. You can see that. We put measurements on there like this far from this driveway and so forth. So you have a better idea of what we're proposing. And then we would move into the online balloting phase. So this is, I think, to answer maybe Michael's question from earlier, how many people have to ask for this in order for it to happen. It's a ballot vote. So if 66% of the people that vote in favor of the project, then it would move forward into our construction phase. So it's not 66% of the properties on the street. It's those that participate in the vote, because we recognize that not everyone participates. So it's but everyone is to receive a ballot on the street. All the property owners on the street will get that opportunity to vote. And so once the vote is closed, we let you know and move forward with that. So
Amy,
yes.
quick question on voting. So we have, we have some Airbnbs and some rental properties. And so is it the renters and like the Airbnb is, so it's the owner of the Airbnb who doesn't live there and may not care about traffic calming.
It's the owner of the property. And so if we need to have a second meeting, we can. I'll just mention that, and then we can move more details about the ballot. But if we totally missed the mark and nobody wants whatever we've proposed on a street, we can always have a second meeting. But if we want to move along, we would just post the plans and you would have access to those plans online as you vote for the project, yes or no. And you have an opportunity to vote yes or no. So our balloting, what we do is we send a postcard. So you all got your postcard about this meeting. So it's similar and it has information about the project, a QR code to take you to the online ballot form where you can vote yes or no. And each postcard has a unique ID that's associated with the property. And so that way we can make sure we don't have duplicate votes and so forth. So it's one vote per property owner. And then the voting is open for 6 weeks. The top of the postcard will state the date of the closing of the ballot. So when you receive that, you know when it closes, and then you can check back and find out the results, because we also post those on NDOT's traffic calming website. So if 66% of the respondents vote yes, or 66 or more, then the project moves forward.
Can I ask a quick
as
question?
planned.
Can I ask a
Yes.
quick question about that? So you mentioned that it's one ballot per property owner.
Mm-hmm.
Do my wife and I, who jointly own the own the house,
Yeah.
count as one owner or two owners?
One owner, one
Okay,
owner.
just to understand. Yeah, thanks.
Yeah, you bet. That's a good question. We do get a lot of 2 votes, and I think that's it. That's what's happening. Let's see. So here's the ballot zone. So these are the people that the properties that are eligible to vote. It's property owners receive the ballot postcard, and that's for residential properties, churches, schools, nonprofits. Have an opportunity to vote. So businesses are not eligible, vacant properties are not eligible. And so also if there's a property owner that owns multiple properties on the street, they're still just getting 1 vote. So that sometimes comes up on streets. And then it's all the properties that have property that abuts the street. So if you're on a corner property and your address may be Marlborough Avenue, but you have some frontage or property alongside of Fairfax, that property would get opportunity to vote. So
Hey, I've got a quick question. You said vacant properties don't count. Does that mean if there's there's obviously a property owner, but they're not renting it out?
no, that's not what we're talking about. It's like vacant properties, like there's no house on it.
Oh, I gotcha. Okay.
So
Vacant lots. Okay.
vacant lots, sorry.
Gotcha.
And so, yes, that the postcard will be mailed to the property owner's address on file with Metro's parcel map. So, if the property owner's in Nebraska, that's where that postcard is going to go. It's not going to go to that property if that's how they have it listed in Metro's data. So, to the point about Airbnbs and so forth, the postcard to vote would go to the property owner, wherever that may be.
And if they own multiple Airbnbs, they're only going to get 1 vote.
Correct. If
Yeah,
they're
but aren't
listed in the
Airbnbs a
second
business,
ownership.
or aren't they ineligible?
Well, it's listed as a residential property on Metro's.
Got it.
land use.
So, yeah.
It's technically an accessory use. Yeah. And just thank you for all that, Amy. But I want to remind folks that the other end of the why we're talking about this stretch of Fairfax, and I don't remember exactly which one it was, but basically, like NDOT didn't just decide to do this or to explore this. It was either like for the application to be in either 4 property owners, 4 different properties, but the owners put in an application, or the neighborhood association put in an application. And I know a couple of years ago, and I can't remember for sure if it was 4 people on Fairfax or if it was several people talked to Hillsborough West End neighbors and they sent it in. But that's how the application gets in and started. I think it's been in for a couple of years.
I think you may be right that it was the neighborhood association.
And I don't know if you're ready for this question, Amy, but so there was a question of a second meeting. I know, and we've got we've had like maybe we got 3 now. We had a few others that have left. Like I don't think we've had anywhere close to a majority of folks. And like when are you going to decide that if there's going to be a second meeting, or when are we going to decide that?
Yeah, we like to decide that during this meeting so we can know how we're moving ahead. I mean, you're right. We had I think we have 4 on the call now. We may have had 1 more on that hopped off, but
Miriam is a neighborhood association
I got you.
leader, not a resident of Fairfax. I mean,
Thank
yeah,
you.
Fairfax.
Okay, so right, if you think we need to have another meeting, we're all for it.
I at least don't want to
yes.
rule it out right now. I think we need to have some I know I've gotten one email from woman or a couple on that stretch who were not psyched about it. And it sounded kind of like there was one on the call that was not. I just guess I want to see that there's consensus, and if there's not, that we kind of talk about the other tools that you mentioned. And I mean, as one who's been in a good number of these, like, I know how usually that is the solution, but I don't know. I just don't know that I have gotten a sense tonight of where the neighbors are. So I would not want to say let's absolutely don't have a second meeting.
Yeah.
And maybe the folks on this call, and I know a handful of other folks, just we have some conversation about it and see what the consensus is, and if it's fine, then we can move forward. But I just don't want to. I don't want to say yes, let's definitely have a second meeting, but I don't want to rule it out yet. Is basically where I am.
I think that's fine. And what we'll do in the meantime is we will prepare that detailed plan. We'll do our field work that we need to do to identify exactly where the cushions go. We'll see if we make any adjustments to add another one that we talked about between 32nd and Marlboro, and just prepare that design. And then we can get back with you, council member, see if you've had any opportunity or talked with anyone else about it, or want to share that plan. We can post it online.
Yeah, great.
Something like that, and go from there.
Could I just jump in there on that topic, because I think that's an interesting. My observation was, so I received the postcard, of course, about the meeting. I promptly forgot about it. I thought, oh, traffic calming, that's interesting. I've got a passing interest in traffic calming, but I hadn't really realized it was going on the street past my house. And thank you, Miriam, for pinging me to remind me that it's directly relevant. And I was wondering a little bit about the, maybe other, I mean, I've been very busy, so perhaps not paying attention. Maybe it said on the postcard that this is impacting me directly, or may impact me directly, and I just missed that. But I wonder if people, I can certainly canvass the other neighbors in my block and ask them to get more involved. They may or may not have time for the meeting. So I was kind of wondering a little bit about how you call, the call to action that makes it obvious or not to people that they're directly impacted, plus the ability for them to consult the plans prior to deciding if it's relevant for them to join the meeting or not. Because, if somebody looks at that in advance and decides that is or isn't something they particularly do or don't want to support, that might encourage them to participate more strongly. So was there a reason that, and maybe it was on the postcard that hey, you can consult the plans now and come to the meeting if you want, but I don't recall seeing that. So I was just thinking.
So yeah, I think what's on the postcard is, your street's been selected for traffic calming, and we identified the street, and saying that we're having a meeting to talk about the plan and get your feedback and so forth. But yeah, people are busy. Everyone can't make a 6 p.m. meeting. That's why we record them. We post them online. And so you, as a neighbor, you may be speaking with your neighbors. You can direct them to NDOT's traffic calming website. That's at the foot of the postcard for the ballot, as well as the meeting postcard. It's on there as well. And I also have it here. But, and share that information. So our plans, once they're finished and ready for balloting, we post those online, and the YouTube channel with the meetings are posted there. So, sometime next week, this meeting, or later this week, this meeting will get posted, and they can get the same information that you're able to get by attending the meeting. So we do all that we think we can to be transparent about the information, and the best way we know to reach people is through these mailers. But yeah, you're right. Some people may miss them or what have you. That's why, we multiples, we have the meeting and then the ballot postcard as well. So we're trying to reach folks. But TrafficCalming.Nashville.gov is NDOT's traffic calming website. Lots of information there, our manual, information about our toolkit, the results of ballot votes are posted, not individual, votes, of course, but just the tally for those streets, as well as the YouTube meetings I mentioned, the plans that are posted there. So it's just housing a lot of information that we hope people will access and reach. And then we also do lean on our council members there to help advertise and disseminate information to the community as they can. But we are looking at these as a street by street basis, so sometimes that's a little hard for council members to know which people to contact about it. So.
Well, Amy, Michael here. Just thank you for your time. It's about an hour, and thank Tom for being on the line too. I would like to, I appreciate the efforts. Certainly, I would like to fulfill the goal of trying to keep the traffic volume and the speed down, but with the least amount of hassle for the neighborhood. So, you could put a speed cushion every 100 yards if you want to. That'd really slow it down. But if you succeed with your goal, I'd ask for the least amount of daily interference with our neighborhood if you can achieve the goal.
Michael, can you elaborate a little bit on what you mean by interference?
Well, I think that I understand going up the hill and down the hill. If they know there's a speed bump there, they're going to slow down. Because right now they do speed up going down towards Marlboro. And but I know having 4 seems a bit excessive to me. I certainly appreciate what the Johnson's, he lives right there. So 3 would seem to be maximum. And if you could get it done with 2, that'd be great. But we have to go with these speed bumps every day. These other people that find another way to get to work to Vanderbilt, like you were taking off Ackland there, Tom, they'll just avoid it, and we will have to do it every day. So if you can achieve the goal with the least amount of interference possible, I think that's probably.
So by interference, you mean your own travels over the speed cushions?
Yeah, that's
okay.
Right.
That's what I thought you meant, but I wanted to make sure.
Yeah. So I certainly will vote yes, but I doubt that I wouldn't want to vote for 5 or 4. I think that the engineers have to use their judgment too, and so it'd be interesting to see. I know it's a lot of more work. If there's 2 choices, it'd be better, but I think that Amy's going to have to come back with just 1 choice for the next go around. I would think. Yeah.
It's usually a yes or no vote.
Yeah.
Yes, I want this plan, or no, I don't want this plan.
Right. I think that that's important to come up with a plan that achieves the goal with the least amount of interference with the neighborhood.
Mm-hmm. And I mentioned earlier about, steep grade and so forth, where we have some limitations on where we can place those. So part of our field work will also be measuring those, the grade of the hill and placing those where we can. So, there may be other limitations in our ability to add another set. So I hear what you're saying, Michael, and I appreciate your feedback there.
Hey, Amy, I know we're at an hour here, but could you go back to the slide that showed the progress and where one of the slides had where there are applications out but haven't been fulfilled? Is that right?
Yes.
I want to go back and see if Overlook or Hillside are on that.
I may not have captured. No, they're not.
Okay. All right. We may want to. I'll talk to the neighborhood association and a few people there and decide if they want to put their application in.
Gotcha.
Thanks.
Yes. Our next application window will be in the spring, usually in March, which will be here before we know it.
Can I ask a very quick question? What happens if people vote no? Is that the end of it? You
That's
don't
a
get
great
another chance for
question.
10 years, or is it, do you just try again with a different plan?
We will come up with a different plan that does not include the vertical measures. So typically it would be those radar feedback signs or other signage and markings that does not incorporate the speed cushions.
Okay.
And that does happen. Largely, I would say 90-something% vote in favor of the project, but we do have some that don't pass the ballot. And so we will put together a Plan B is what we call it.
Okay.
All right. Well, council member, I think we're wrapping up here. And so I think
Thank
we'll
you.
put together that plan and get back with you when it's ready, and we'll determine whether we need to have another meeting.
Sounds good.
Thank you, Tom. Thank you, Amy.
Thanks very much.
neighbors.
Thank
Thank
you
you.
all for participating, and have a good evening.
Bye-bye.
You too.